Okay, now what we're going to talk about now is the Earth is a molten ball. At the centre of it is a white hole, and all the energy pours out from heaven. The Milky Way galaxy is like that. This is a white hole, energy pouring out in all directions, and we are on an orbit which takes 250 million years to go around, and this doesn't mean that it's 250 million years old. What it means is it appears to be that because we've created it in such a way that when I had to come to the Earth, I'd explain things to you that you never thought of. So we're talking about creation here, and happened all at the same time. Now, the distance is 3963 miles, which is the word Patmos in the book of Revelation, found once, and is referring to Revelation. This orbit that the solar system goes around in is 66,666.66 light years across. There are 6,666 books in the Quran, or verses, chapters, lessons, and that's how many times the word Lord is found in the New Testament and Old Testament, 6,666 times. Right. 25 number is very important. 25 degree latitudes, north and south. Measured from the one that occurred just after my birthday to where I was born is 8,888.8 miles. Many years ago, the New Zealanders drilled a hole, and I watched it on the television, and what they did, I'll just do that all again, they drilled a core sample down in Antarctica. So we end up with a core sample something like this, and each layer is 1 inch thick, not 1 inch and a little bit, not 1 inch and less a little bit, exactly 1 inch. And the snow comes up because of the Coriolis effect and dumps onto Antarctica and also of the other end of the Earth. I'm doing this the other way up, so let's say that's North Pole, that's South Pole, so it comes down to Antarctica. It also goes up to the North Pole, but there's a land mass down in Antarctica. So we'll draw it the other way up, as we're talking about Antarctica. So as they drilled down, they got down 8,888 core samples down, inches of the core sample. Then they took it out and they planed it off like so. So this is going like that. And there's all your core samples running across it. They ran 2 probes along it to test the conductivity of electricity, and where it hit the pollen layer, it would flip. And they knew that each layer contained pollen. So then they got in and looked at it closely, and sure enough, pollen. What they didn't realise is that this layer here is the last of the layers. That's Eden. In this particular case, they only drilled down 8,888. It might have been longer than that somewhere else on the shelf, but it doesn't matter. That's what they came up with. So we got the 8888 number, which is intrinsic to myself, and that is Jesus, of course. And then where the 25 degree layers, which I was talking up here to where I was born, 8,888.8 from the solar eclipse on the 25th of January in 1944, 14 days after I was born. 14 is Abba, Father. So, from this point downwards, it's just sheer ice. So no matter how far they go down from that point, it's just ice. It's not layers of snow compressed. It is just ice. And nothing in it. So therefore, that's the creation point. So what's going to happen is this. Revolve. Don't do nothing. Antarctica. We'll draw it in red. There it is, floating away. Is it at sea level? Or is it floating underneath sea level somewhere? Well, it is. It's actually 20,000 feet down. It's got up. All this molten material, which is 2200 degrees Celsius, is the ship Antarctica with its base and ice and everything else on it. is floating on that, and it pushes down. America does the same thing. Australia does the same thing. So naturally, it's got mountains above and land mass and so forth. And by the way, if we leveled off every mountain on Earth and filled up the valleys, the thickness is 454.5 feet, which is the height of the pyramid up to the missing capstone or rejected me capstone. And therefore that would be the average height of the landmass. Okay? Not that hard, is it? Think about it. Now, Sears Roebuck, of course, they brought out the Britannica. So every time you turn open the Britannica or Wikipedia or something, the fucking Zionists own it. Are you going to believe it? Of course not. They change everything. So what we have then, let's say Antarctica now, all the ice melts, and what happens to the water? Makes no difference to the mass of the Earth, but what happens is you've got seawater, and then you'll have a layer of fresh water on top containing all the pollen that has been trapped in the ice layers for all this time. Then as it evaporates because the sun beats down on it, and as little pollen gets lifted up into the air, pollen becomes a nucleus for the ice to form a little tiny droplet, frozen, which becomes hail. Now it's heavy, it starts to fall. As it gets close to the temperate zone of the Earth itself, it melts and it comes down as rain. That's why when the conditions are right, it'll come down as lumps of hail, because it hasn't had time to melt. Right. So we are not going to experience a rise in sea level. We are going to experience water which has got the pollen in it of creation, and it's going to evaporate down and fall onto the Earth, and at the same time we have crossed over in 2011 on December 11th at 11 a.m. we crossed over into the northern side of the Milky Way galaxy. And that's why all the Coriolis effect is reversed, because you've got the Coriolis of the galaxy pushing around like so, causing everything to spin, and the Earth is coming up the other way through it, and it wants to spin the other direction because it's been so far away. I'll just draw that a bit better. Let's say there's the equator line. We've been travelling upwards at 69,000 kilometres per hour in a spiral until we hit this level here, and when we go across it, there's a ripple coming out from the Milky Way galaxy centre, something like that. So as we cross through it and we encounter this will cause the water going down the shitter clockwise or anti-clockwise, depending on which side of this hit. But there's a predominance now, because we're on this side. While we're in that area there, it's turning clockwise in the South Pacific and anti-clockwise in the northern hemisphere. Now, I'm 68 years old plus 2 days. You can do a rough calculation on this. I've probably had 2 shits a day. Most of my life, when I flushed the toilet, looked down in Australia, it's going counterclockwise. But I did live in North America for a while, and be damned if it didn't go clockwise. So anyone that says, oh, it's always been that way, bullshit. Now, what is happening is, as we're going through that layer,